What's up, everybody? We're back.
Yeah. Hey, welcome back to the Metalhead's Journey. Hey, so we've kind of been on a small hiatus. You might have seen us last week if Dave posted a video. I'm not
did.
sure. Okay. Where we brought back our brackets for we're trying to find the best song for Megadeth. But now we're only gonna be doing that like once a month. We're getting back on pace here. We're getting back to the lists. We're on to the top 20 rock list of all time. This is number 18. The band is Boston. The album is Boston, and it rules. So we're gonna do a quick history of the band, history of the album here, and then we'll get right into it. So, like I said, this is Boston and Boston, number 18 on the top 20 list of all time for rock albums. Boston, formed in 1975, is an American rock band formed in 1975. Why did I write that twice?
I don't either.
I don't know, but look, you guys just make sure you remember they were formed in 1975.
1975, got it.
Yeah, the band was formed by multi-instrumentalist Tom Scholz. Tom Scholz started writing music while at MIT. While there, he joined the band Freehold, where he met guitarist Barry Goudreau and drummer Jim Mazdia. Vocalist Brad Delp was added in 1970. The band has released 6 studio albums, including 2013's Life, Love, and Hope. How many albums do you think this band has sold?
This album
in their lifetime? Band? Both are good questions, but let's just go for the whole band right now.
I'm gonna go crazy and say, well, I don't know if this is crazy. I'm gonna say, what's platinum? $1 million?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say 75 million.
Yeah, I would say probably 70 to 80 million, something like that. Maybe even up to 100.
My guess was 50 million.
I feel like you guys looked at this. It was 75 million records worldwide.
I did not. 100%.
How many records do you think just the self-titled debut album sold?
Wild guess. 28 for some reason pops into my brain.
I would say like 50.
Jesus. It's not 50.
10 million.
10? 20 million.
Okay.
Oh, that was close.
That's pretty damn good, man.
Yeah.
So Boston, the album, released in 1976, is the band's first studio album, released in 1976. No, I'm just joking. I didn't put that one twice. The album style, often referred to as the Boston Sound, was developed through Scholz's love for classical music, melodic hooks, and early guitar heavy rock groups such as the Kinks and the Yardbirds, as well as a number of analog electronic effects developed by Scholz in his home studio. Besides Scholz, who played most of the instruments on nearly all of the tracks, and Delp, other musicians appear on the album, such as drummers Jim Mazdia and Sib Hashian, guitarist Barry Goudreau, and bassist Fran Sheehan. All except Mazdia became full-time band members. The album was released by Epic in August 1976 and broke sales records, becoming the best-selling debut LP in the U.S. at the time, and winning the RIAA Century Award for the best-selling debut album. The album singles More Than a Feeling, Peace of Mind, and Foreplay Long Time were major hits, and nearly the entire album receives constant airplay on classic rock radio. The album is often regarded as a staple of 1970s rock and has been included on many lists of essential albums. It's sold at least 17 million copies in the United States and at least 20 million worldwide, making it one of the best-selling debut albums of all time.
Crazy.
I'm gonna come in real quick here as far as our overall thoughts. You said something now, Josh, that I know that I thought of, and I briefly talked with Jason about before, how all the songs from this record receive airplay on classic rock. Going through this album, one of the first things that I experienced or felt was unlike the previous albums we've been doing on these lists where I haven't heard them, I was like, oh, I've heard this song, and then it got to the end and I was like, I'm pretty certain I've heard every single one of these songs. And that is not a bad thing. I think that is just a testament to just how awesome this record is. That basically every song is single worthy material. If I didn't know any better, I would think this is a Boston best of album. And that is just crazy. This album was a joy to listen to. I thoroughly enjoyed myself. 8 songs. It's the magic number.
Magic number.
And it's an easy listen. I think it's just under or right around 35, 38 minutes in length. And
37.
Okay. Yeah, 37 minutes in length. Quick listen, relatively speaking. There's spoiler. I can't really think of anything about this record I don't like.
Yeah, I'm gonna piggyback a little bit on what Dave said. If you were a band, I don't care what band, what genre, time frame, whatever, but if you had a 20-year career, produced 10 albums, you would probably sell your soul to the devil to have a greatest hits album that was as good as this one album of theirs.
Yeah.
Like it's almost scary how good every song on this album is. Like it's unbelievable. Like Dave, to what Dave said earlier, like when I was listening to this, I was like, wow, I do know every song. I've never owned this album, but I knew every song. There was only one song on here that I really wasn't overly familiar with, but even that song, which was "Hitch a Ride," like it sounds familiar though. Like I've obviously heard it before, but not to the extent like most of the songs on here. Fantastic record.
Jonah?
Go ahead, Jonah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna mirror much of the same sentiments. It's a great album. There's no skippers. It's basically, given like its production value and like the musicality of everything, it's timeless in my opinion. And like, I was one of those insufferable kids in high school that was like, oh man, music was so much better back then. But this is one of those albums where it's like you can point to and it's like, no, it kind of was better back then. Given like the limitations they had technologically and whatnot, it's just it's almost baffling how good this album is.
Yeah. I mean, and you guys all said it, so I'm not going to bleed this dry here, but I mean, this album is all killer, no filler, no skippers on it whatsoever. And the guitar work is just, I mean, there's not like, we're going to talk about best riff here in a second. But the guitar work on it is like, there's not necessarily like these all-time killer riffs, right? But it's the totality of the songwriting that is very good. Like the vocal melodies on everything. Just the ability of Brad Delp is he's a fantastic singer. But that carries a lot of it. While there are some what I think now maybe feel like more cookie cutter riffs, but at the time, they were a little bit more ahead of their time. We'll go right into the MVP of the record. Look, I try to swerve here and try to find random people on the record sometimes to make MVP just to make it more exciting. But how can you not go Tom Scholz? The guy plays all the instruments on the record. And the songwriting is fantastic. So it's
and
like
he's a producer and engineer.
Yeah. So it's funny. I got to. So the story about him being a producer, I was watching a video on this earlier. So whenever they got picked up by the record label, they wanted him to go to California with this other producer and re-record the whole album. And he was kind of like, I don't really want to do that. I think the album sounds pretty good the way it is. So he decided to stay in New York instead of going to California. He made an arrangement with the producer where he's like, hey, look, you don't have to do anything. I'll go back to my studio here in New York. I'll touch it up a little bit so it sounds a little different. And you just add me as a producer on here so you get a producing credit, but I'll do all the work. And so they're like, cool. So that's what happened. So he actually, this is basically stuff from his original demo. Kind of like the first Foo Fighters record, which is kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Scholz for me, though, for MVP. Jonah, who do you got?
It's Tom Scholz for all these.
Are we going for a Tom Scholz sweep here?
I will say I'm gonna pull a page from y'all guys' book, and my runner-up MVP is Fran Sheehan. Just the tone that he achieved on some of these parts, just the way the bass mixes in with the guitar parts and the rhythm section in general, it was so good. Like there were multiple times throughout the album where I could hear the bass come through, or there was like a little bit of a break where it was like just bass, and I'm just like, man, this is so good.
It is.
Yep. Yeah, especially the bass really shows up like super strong on Foreplay.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah,
we're gonna get to that.
Yeah, but that's certainly a highlight for the bass there. Dave, what do you got?
Well, I pulled a U, Josh, and I kind of wanted to swerve a little bit. I think this is just a minor swerve. I went Brad Delp, the singer.
That's acceptable.
Because I honestly and truthfully believe that his voice on these tracks is iconic. And I don't like More Than a Feeling. Like I just couldn't imagine that being sung by anybody else. And every track, right? Even when like on Long Time, after the foreplay part and Long Time comes on, when he's like, "It's been such a long time," like, dude, that is so clean.
Dude, thank God he doesn't sound like that.
Oh, I know. So, like, he's not flat and just off key. Like, thankfully, he sounds good, right?
Yeah, that's a no for me, dog.
Yeah. No. I'm not going to quit my day job whatsoever. So, no, I'm going to go Brad Delp, but obviously Tom Scholes, from as far as what he was responsible for, I think he kind of he is the MVP, but I'll give a shout out to Brad Delp.
He's almost the Stone Cold Steve Austin of this.
Oh yeah, I mean, he is Boston, right? Like, I think that is.
My answer is very similar to Dave's. Brad Delp's vocals are my strong suit. Like, I love the sound of his voice. It's perfect.
What?
But
I don't think I've ever heard you come in and praise the vocalist of a band.
Absolutely fantastic. But Schultz is the MVP of this album. Like, you don't know that you want an electric organ solo until he gives you one.
Yeah.
I mean,
so what's strange is, like, when we listen to those prog records, I mean, they do electric piano.
I know. But this is
like
how
and those solos blow this one off the face of the earth. But you don't like those.
No, this is how it's done.
Okay. Fair enough. Jason, what's best riff on the record?
Best riff is going to be it's a I wouldn't even say it's not a main riff. It's basically just a background riff. It's on "Smokin'." Right after the organ solo, you have an open fade out, and then you get that little riff right underneath. It's dun 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 dun. And it's just a little riff. It lasts for about 45 seconds or so. It's fantastic. It's simple, and it's just one of those things where you can make a whole song, and I'd probably get a chubby just based on that riff.
That's a deep cut. All right, Dave, what you got?
Mine is not a deep cut. Mine is
More Than a Feeling.
No. It's the foreplay. It's like I don't want to mouth it, but it's basically the that part. And honestly, like, leads right into like the lead that comes in, like when Long Time starts, like the solo that right before the vocals kick in, like that little lead that he does is so good. God, I mean, that song in general is an absolute just heavyweight classic. But anyway, we'll get there.
Jonah, what you got?
I'm gonna go a Long Time also, but it's the little acoustic interludes that break up the verse chorus. Yeah, dude, that's tasty. I love that.
Yeah,
and then he starts singing on top of just the acoustic. So good.
And I'm taking my time.
Yeah, with the harmonies and stuff, man, it's so good.
I had that one as kind of like earmarked for a while for mine. And then in the last couple of days, because we've been stuck on this record for about a fucking year, so I went back and re-listened to this record a couple more times, and man, I just kind of got moved into Something About You. And then when you go to about the 30-second mark, it kicks in with this sweet little harmony guitar lick going into the main riff of the song. Dude, just so good. I mean, I don't know, it's so clean, and I feel like this would be something that Adrian would really appreciate. All right, let's go into top tracks here. I'll go first. We're gonna omit our new category this week of what would you do to cut it down to 8 songs, because they've already done it for us. Good job by you, Boston. But I'm still gonna give an honorable mention here because I mean it's hard not to. Honorable mention for me is Foreplay, Long Time. Look, instrumental part of it, it's fine, but the Long Time part, very very good. Yeah, that's fair. Number 3 for me is Something About You. Number 2, More Than a Feeling. I feel like you have to have that on the list. I think you could maybe even like Bohemian Rhapsody that and just elevate it above the list if you wanted to, just because of how popular that song is. But man, there was a song for me on this record that I'd never heard before until now. And just from the first time I heard it until today, I was like, God, this song just fucking slaps. It's Let Me Take You Home Tonight. I love this song. It's just got a fucking vibe to it, man. And it's one of those like all time, let me try and take you home and, do something to you, make you do some butt coke with me. Right? Like it's just one of those songs that like, I don't know, it's just a jam, dude. I love it. It's got a cool feeling to it. And then in the last minute of it, it picks up and it's got this like up tempo fucking like jam going on to it as well. So you get a little bit of everything.
Thank God nobody listens this far into the episode.
Oh yeah.
And,
okay.
Jonah, what you got?
It's not my runner-up, but I wanted to say about Let Me Take You Home Tonight. It's one of those like kind of slower 70s jams. It's got like that. I can't really describe it. It's like it's not romantic, but like in the 70s romance. You know what I mean? It's like it's straight up. They're just talking about smashing, but it still somehow has a little bit of romance to it. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that about that song because that's also a great song. But my number 3 is Smokin'. That's just a classic, just straight up rock and roll song. The drums on that song are so good. Everything's tight. It's a great song. My number 2, More Than a Feeling. It's just a pure classic rock jam as well. It's a good feel good song. The solos are great. The guitars sound amazing. And the number 1 for me, probably no surprise, Foreplay, Long Time. Dude, that Foreplay intro is just untouchable.
Oh yeah.
That's I mean, and the song in general, and that's where my my greatest riff is on Long Time anyway. So yeah, that's my number 1 by a long shot.
Yeah.
Dude, it almost makes you want to touch the skip button.
No. Look, I'm gonna go next because it's gonna be real easy. Because Jonah is a genius. My honorable mention is Peace of Mind. That's a great song. Like just everything about it. I like that it's like I don't want to pretend like I know what the song is about, but it's just basically like I don't know, the working man or just kind of going through, but it's really good. I like the lyrics of that song. But then number 3, Smokin', great song. That was one of the songs that I have heard. I know I've heard it, but I don't know that that's like gets a whole lot of radio play, at least not in our town. But I know I've heard it. It's a good song. Number 2, More Than a Feeling. Again, it's kind of like an auto pick. It's just a good song. And it's the number 1 track on here for a reason. And then no surprise, number 1, Foreplay, Long Time. I think that is absolutely an all-timer. Like that is, I would nearly put that song up there. Like when I think of that song, I think of like War Pigs. I think of Stairway to Heaven. I think of classic songs in that vein. Like I'm not saying it's better than those songs or anything, but like I think it's in the conversation when I think of those type of epic 60s and 70s songs. Love it.
All right, I guess this leaves me, huh?
Yeah.
All right, so we're all pretty smart people here. My number 3, I don't have a runner-up because I have 2 songs that are tied, so I'm not going to just name half that fucking album. But number 3, Foreplay, Long Time. Classic, iconic open. Number 2, which I thought this would be my number 1, but I was wrong. But number 2 is More Than a Feeling.
But we all got that at number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And number 1, Spoken. It was heavy rotation when I was a kid. I remember that song so much. If you were in a bar, that was on every jukebox play. That and More Than a Feeling constantly.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Like Smoking, look, there's no bad songs on this record, but Smoking is the worst of the bunch
No.
by far.
Dude, I think Rock and Roll Band would be the worst of the bunch for me personally.
I think I might agree.
And that's not even a bad song. It's my
No.
least, it's just it would be my least favorite.
Yeah, my least favorite turned out to be the one song that I was least familiar with, and that was Hitch a Ride, which is still a very good song.
I like that song. It has almost kind of a Beatles vibe to it a little bit.
Yeah, I can hear that.
I instantly hate that. All right. Hey, we've arrived at the moment here where we like to give our score for the record and just kind of explain this part of it. We know for a lot of folks out there, an average score is a 7. For us, an average score is a 5. So if this record gets anything between a 4.9 down to a 0, that's various levels of we would not recommend that you listen to it. Anything 5 or above is various levels of we would recommend it. And obviously, if we get anything from a 9 to a 10, that's an all-time classic.
Yep.
Who wants to go first? Jason, you want to go first? Is this going to break your 8.4?
Yeah, I'll go first.
All right.
So this was a difficult album to grade. And me and David talked about this for the last couple of weeks as far as determining the point that I was going to give this album. If I just go by how I normally rate an album, I give every song an individual score. And when I came at the end of it, I had it at an 8.6.
Oh.
The issue is that there's a couple of things at play here. One, I've heard every song on this album except for Hitch a Ride probably a couple of 100 times each from the time that I can first remember listening to music. And so I think subconsciously I'm not giving it its just reward because I've heard these songs so much. 2, there's just no way this is not a legendary album. So I'm giving it a 9.0.
Holy shit.
Yeah. If this isn't a legendary album, I don't know what is.
Wow.
It deserves a legendary score. So I'm bumping it from an 8.6 to a 9.0 because I think it deserves it.
So I'll go next because I came to a similar conclusion. I do things a little bit differently than Jason. I kind of have a score in mind, and then I look and see what I've previously rated other albums, and I try to ask myself, okay, is this one better than this one? This one, I try to kind of fine tune my score based on what I've given in the past. And I was kind of in the 8.6 or 8.5 to 8.8 range based on what I've given previous albums. And I had the same question, if this is not a legendary album, then there is no such thing as a legendary rock album, in my opinion. So I bumped it a couple of points, and I also gave this a 9.0. There's nothing bad about this record. There's not a single critique I could give this record that would have any real weight to it. It's a fantastically produced, excellent lyrics, excellent songwriting, and the album flows really good. Even if I'm super critical of the record, there's just not a single song I would skip. So it's got to be a 9 in my opinion by default. So that's where I'm at.
Wow.
Jonah, you want to hit it up?
Sure.
These are far more robust than I thought.
So, as most of you know, I'm fairly critical when it comes to my scores, and it has nothing to do with, it doesn't necessarily mean that I think anything is wrong with the music. I kind of base it on feeling a little bit as well as critique. So based on that, there are some absolute banger tracks on this album. But based on my scoring is much more like of a steep curve after you get after you pass like 6 or 6.5. So I ended up scoring this at 8.3, which puts it
All right.
as my second highest rated album so far.
Yeah.
Right
Jonah, the
behind
new Jason.
Rush.
Good job.
Yeah. I funny enough, Jonah, I also put this 0.1 below what I gave Rush. I gave Rush a 9.1. I put this at a 9. So
Yeah. I think this is easily the second best album we've reviewed so far.
Interesting. All right. Well, I'm going to be the lowest scorer. Listen, the album is very good for sure. I think I would have given it a higher score if we'd have just spent 2 weeks with it. But having to spend a lot of time with it and then come back to it, I found myself skipping around a little bit in the album and going to the ones that I knew I really liked and kind of glossing over the Smokins of the world. So, look, I'm still going to give this a good score. This is still just coming in as a solid 8. But it is definitely not better than A Night at the Opera from Queen. I'd rather listen to Lazing on a Sunday Afternoon than any song on this record.
Wrong.
I'm lazing on a Sunday afternoon.
Nope. Skip.
Man, with these high scores though, this puts this at an overall score of an 8.58. I'm trying to find an album not by Metallica that we've rated higher. I'm just gonna take a quick cursory glance.
What about that last Priest record?
Funny enough, I don't have that on my sheet here, so I couldn't tell you. That could have beat this, but I don't have that prepared. So of the albums I do have prepared, this is the highest one not named, not by Metallica. So
what did the Queen album end up at?
8.48.
Okay.
0.1.
Yeah.
What did Rush end up at?
8.35.
Mm.
Yeah. So
Well, I guess theoretically this rock list is right so far then.
yeah. So I mean,
Based on that score.
Look, I haven't given anything less than a 9 so far on this rock list. So
It's coming.
I mean, the next album I think it's gonna catch up.
Yeah, I think I think next week is
the Doors.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see about that one. But hey, 8.58, for those of you that are huge Boston fans, like myself, you might see that and be like, "Oh my God, how could it get that low?" Look, there's 4 of us. It's very hard for albums to score high. I just got through saying this is the highest score we've ever given, not by Metallica, which is all of our favorite bands basically growing up. So this is a monumental score on this channel.
Yeah, it is. It is. Well, hey, I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, go ahead and hit that like, hit the subscribe. We're putting out weekly metal and rock content, I guess, now. We're doing metal time machines, metal brackets, metal, all kinds of other cool stuff. And hey, in the meantime, live long and prosper.
Take it easy, everybody.
Later.
Peace.